Now, most of our children and youth do not start the day thinking, I wonder how many people I can upset today. They don't start the day thinking, today I'm going to make as many mistakes and wrong choices as I can just to see what happens. Our children and youth do not start the day thinking, how many problems can I cause for myself, my teachers, my friends, and my family today? No, like most of us, our children and our youth are doing the best they can just to get through the day. But like all of us, a few small, bad decisions can start them down an unfortunate path. And as we noted in the children's time, when confronted about why they do wrong, misguided, or hurtful things, most often our children and teens will say, I don't know. And I tend to believe them because our frontal lobes, our human brains, develop over a period of time. And it's the frontal lobes that have what's called executive decision, the ability to make decisions, the ability to use judgment, the ability to initiate ideas, and the ability to judge the difference between right and wrong and extend or think about consequences. Most of us don't have frontal lobes that are developed until our late 20s, and so the I don't know can work for a while. However, you can ask for other voices when you know what you're doing. You don't want to share with mom or dad or God. But very few people, I believe, get up in the morning thinking, today, I'm going to create chaos. Today, I'm going to be a rotten person. I don't think most people get up in the morning saying, today I'm going to take an assault rifle, a truck, or a deadly weapon and kill and wound as many people as possible. I don't think most people get up in the morning thinking, today I'm going to kill an African-American man during a traffic stop or an arrest. Or today I'm going to kill a cop. I don't think most people get up in the morning thinking, today I'm going to permanently mess up my life and the lives of as many others as I can. Today, I'm going to use violence so that I can cause as much pain and chaos as possible. Now, granted, there are some people who are mentally ill and there are some people who are sociopaths. But I truly believe most people do not get up in the morning determined to do the worst thing they can possibly think of. When asked why they did what they did, most people who commit acts of violence or chaos offer the most immediate reason for their conduct. They felt angry or they felt afraid. Some figured life was a struggle anyway, so they may as well please their God or please their handlers. And some of us are just truly lost in the moment when violence and chaos erupt. Like most of us, people who harm others are doing the best they can just to get through the day. And somewhere in life, those who cause harm to others do so because they've made a series of very small and very bad decisions. And those very small and very bad decisions have built up over time until it takes them down a path where they decide to cause harm to others. The rulers of Israel did not get up in the morning during Hosea's time thinking, let's do everything we can to make sure that we lead this nation and these people, our families and ourselves, down a path that's going to end in destruction, misery, death, and captivity in a foreign land for 120 years. Let's do everything we can today to turn away from God so that we can really mess up everyone's lives. No, like everyone else, the rulers of Israel got up every day doing the best they possibly could to get themselves and the people of their nation through the day. And somewhere along the way, the rulers of Israel made some very small and very bad decisions that led them away from the living God. And those very small and very bad decisions accumulated until they made a series of very large and very bad decisions that caused them to turn away from the living God and turn toward other people and other idols for their safety and security. They made some very small and bad decisions that caused them to accumulate until they made some very large and very awful decisions that caused them to cheat in business, that caused them to believe murder, theft, and deception were the ways to increase their wealth and maintain their power and keep their people safe. Somewhere, the rulers of Israel made some very small and very bad decisions that built up over time and accumulated to the point that they decided to abandon the living God completely so that they could worship the fertility gods of their masters. And they did all of this in a vain attempt to keep the peace, to grow their wealth, and to maintain the power that they enjoy. I believe with all of my heart that the vast majority of human beings in our world do their very best every day just to get by, to survive, and sometimes to even thrive. And when things go wrong, it's because we have made a series of small, bad decisions that draw us away from our God. Decisions that cause us to listen to the voices other than the voice of our God, the God that we know through Jesus our Christ. And the more we listen to those other voices, the more likely it is that we will make decisions that lead us away from the safety, the love, the acceptance, the growth, and the security that come with worshiping the living God. We all make a series of very small and very bad decisions that cause us to cease listening to and following the voice of our God. You see, those other voices, the voices of fear, anxiety, greed, envy, rage, addiction, and hate, those are powerful voices. And they're in our world in increasing volume. They are voices that when life seems hard and life seems unfair, the voices of rage and envy and greed and fear and anxiety and hate, they are powerful voices. And when things go wrong, we listen to those voices in a way that causes us to make a lot of very small and a lot of very bad decisions until they become very large and very bad decisions. It's easy for those voices to call out to our lesser selves. It's easy for those voices to lead us to some very unfortunate consequences unless we pause to remember that those voices do not belong to God. They're just voices that want us to lead us towards some very small, very bad decisions that will lead us away from God, away from God's love, away from God's eternal presence, away from sharing God's love with others, away from serving God by serving others, away from the lives of peace, meaning, love, forgiveness, and possibilities that come with our God. There are voices in our lives that will lead us toward very big, very destructive decisions if we continue to listen to them. There are voices of fear, anxiety, greed, envy, rage, addiction, and hate that will lead us down a road ever more dark and ever more twisted and ever more insecure and violent, a road that will take us away from God's voice until we forget what God's voice really sounds like. And the farther down the road of fear we get, the more likely it is that we're going to make some very bad and some very big decisions that will harm others, harm our families, harm our community, and harm ourselves. And those voices that are not our God seek to destroy anything and anyone who listens to them. We won't know why we're causing the harm, but the voices that are speaking in our ear will know. Those are voices that want to destroy us, and they want to destroy those around us. The good news is God still speaks. God speaks to us like a parent who agonizes over the decisions their children make. God speaks to us like a parent who wishes they could stop caring but simply cannot. A parent who would like to let the child make their mistake and suffer the consequences on their own, but because of love, feel the need to speak and intervene. God speaks to us like a parent who wishes their children would stop and listen to the parent's voice of love and wisdom and reason and care. God speaks to us, hoping that we will turn away from those other voices and listen to God's voice of love calling to us to listen. God still speaks. And we can recognize God's voice because God's voice is very different from those other voices. God's voice will never lead us to hate or to harm. God's voice will always lead us to love and accept. God's voice does not lead us toward greed, envy, fear, or anxiety. God's voice leads us to safety and security, as well as peace of heart and mind. God's voice doesn't lead us toward rage or addiction or hate. The voice of God that we know through Jesus our Christ does not ever ask us to pursue violence. God's voice that we know through Jesus our Christ leads us toward complete peace within us, so that we can have complete peace between us. God's voice is the voice of a parent, hoping, praying, calling, speaking words of love, forgiveness, transformation, and possibilities. Any other voice is not the voice of God. Run from those other voices. Talk to someone whose faith is strong in the moment, whose counsel is wise, who carries peace in their hearts, because any voice that leads us toward destructive behavior is not the voice of God. Run from those voices to a place where God's voice can break through the din and speak to our heart and our souls. Any other voice is not the voice of God, so stop and breathe. And remember that God is the loving parent who wants nothing but good for us, nothing but good for our families, nothing but good for our loved ones, nothing but good for our community, nothing but good even for those we think of as our enemies. One of my favorite things, one of my favorite things when I'm watching television or listening to the radio is to talk back. Yes. There are commercials that will come on and tell me that this is going to give me the good life. I like to talk back saying, you lie, no, not going to happen. There are voices on television, there are voices on the radio, there are voices in magazines, there are voices all around us who promise us nothing but wonderful things if we just follow them. That's when you say, I don't think so. Nuh-uh. No, that's not going to work. In this political season, there are voices that are telling us a whole lot of lies. And it's fun to say, nuh-uh, no, where'd you find those numbers? Who told you that was true? Talk back. Because if we don't talk back to those voices, they get themselves hooked in our brains. They are the software, they are the information coming into the brains, our computers that are our brains, and filling us with junk until our brains can't figure out what's real and what's false. We have to talk back and delete that stuff. Every day we have to go through our brain's history and delete the stuff that is false, the stuff that is going to lead us down a path to destruction. I'm getting on a roll, somebody stop me. The path that is going to lead us down away from our living God. We have to look at what's going on in our lives and listen to the voice of God. And listen to those voices that do not want to do anything but destroy us. And to destroy the people around us, and to fill us with lies, and falsehood, and hate, and greed, and envy. We've got to listen, we've got to pay attention, and we have to talk back. And when we're not sure what's true, when we're not sure who to listen to, we have a congregation filled with people who are wise. We have a Bible that is filled with God's truth. We have people who are paying attention, who are close to God, who can speak to us and give us another way to think about it as to pull us back. Or we can sit quietly in prayer with our God and say, God, help me. God, help me. Speak to me, God. Because when we pause and listen, we will understand that God still